I wonder if they changed something.
It says it's now streaming live on YouTube, Max.
Okay, good.
Great, we're good. All right, well, I will call this Communications and Technology Committee meeting to order. It is August 3rd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. just about. First thing we'll do is determine a quorum. It does appear that we have one. Excellent. Does anyone have any adjustments to the agenda? Anything you want to add? Take that silence to mean no. It looks like we have no minutes to approve, so done. I know usually if there's people in the room, we ask for citizen comments. So I guess if we notice anything popping up in chat, we'll just take a minute and look at that. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep. I'll get my phone going so
All
I
right.
can see the chat.
While Max does that, we'll start right with a little business. This has been quite a run, gentlemen, and also thanks to the folks who aren't here. I know we're writing a lot of work that John and others had also done in the past. We have an official signed document with the town. I know that's been brought up at our meetings, but it's very exciting to repeat that at this table. Charter is now working to get poll permitting done and all the sort of fine-tune and hands-on work they have to do to that required. Of course, not promising this will be done in 5 minutes or anything like that, but the legal documentation is done, and all the agreements are signed. That's very exciting. Up to today, I don't have any updates from Charter beyond that. I don't know if anyone else has information. I don't.
I don't have anything either.
I'm not expecting anything special once they start permitting with polls. I know Shelley at Charter was pretty clear in her last email. Once the document was signed, she'll update Julie every month or so. So just before the next meeting, if I haven't heard anything, my intent is just to reach out and ask if I've heard anything. Also, if any of you decide to do that, feel free to share with the group what you learned. That's completely fine with me. Any other old business?
So this was just charter updates, or was this the
Yeah.
Chapel Road?
Well, so that's a good question. And I guess just to clarify for everyone, the chapel updates, Charter Road was the only update I had with. So I kind of put those together. Getting the new franchise agreement signed is what's going to get that road wired for everything that falls inside the lines. There's some fine print like length of driveways and things like that. Okay? So that's all one thing. I don't have any new information outside of Chapel Road. Yes, Bob.
Didn't Shelley indicate they would like to sit down and speak to us at some point about the unserved or underserved pockets that remain?
That is correct. And that flows us pretty smoothly into, I guess, what I was considering new business. What I wanted to do was provide Shelley with a list for that. I wanted to come up with a more specific workflow for this group. A while ago, I created a Google Drive that had all the past communication from the CTC so everyone could see every email that I had a record of. And that didn't start out as an official archive. I just took all the data I had and put it there. I'm also putting the map that Max is nice enough to scan. What I want to do is take that online document on Google Drive and start dividing up that work. I'm looking for help driving those unserved roads. I'm happy to show anyone here what I look for in terms of if cable or fiber is up on the pole. And if we can go and break down through that map over the next month, that is how we could give Charter, and if I'm being honest, any ISP we want to talk with, a running total of the roads we're looking to have served. What I want to do with that data is generate a list of roads that are unserved or partially served. This is good enough. And then as best we can, start getting numbers from each place. These numbers would just be estimates. We can't hold anyone to a solid number because of all the things that move when you're wiring an area for broadband. But we can start building out a price list. Once we have that, we could do that, use that for applying for grants, showing our data for those grants, showing densities, houses per mile, things like that. Whether it's Charter, who's the first people that have answered us in a while, or LCI, who's a great member of the community, or places we haven't talked to, whether that be Consolidated Communications or whatever unnamed player. Maybe someone will start an ISP, that would be great. I want to get that backbone data built so we can have a framework, a template to talk to anyone.
It makes total sense.
And the reason I want to use the Google Drive I established, the intention with the drive that I established is, I don't expect anyone here to be doing this job forever. So whoever takes this on, I want the town to own that drive. When I first created it, I believe I sent the login and password to you. It hasn't changed. If it did change, that password would just be sent to her when it got changed. And then anyone else, member of this committee, should create a Gmail account. Is probably the easiest thing. And we can assign access to that so you can read and write and view everything in that drive. As you contribute work, it would just be a spreadsheet. You know, Bob drove this road, he noticed these things weren't on there, and it's this long. We would take that data and say, hey, Charter, this road at this density, how much would it cost to extend your service? And we'll see if they get us a number. If we can do that all and then ask the question, we can give them a complete list. I think we'll slow these people down if we try to give them one tiny road at a time. You know, these places work at scale. So what I really want to do, if I got every wish I could make, I would like to contact every ISP in whatever order we deem feasible and say, here's our data. How much to get these done? And when you answer us, can you break it down on a cost per road? Because some are going to be easy, some are going to be hard. We'll have to figure out how to deal with that. But once we have that solid number, we can ask short, intelligent questions, and we can ask them pretty early compared to others.
Just something I did do ahead of time. This was maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
When Charter mentioned that they wanted to consider next Connect Main grant
Right.
round, because the question 1 was on the ballot, which fortunately passed, giving $15 billion in a new bond for connecting Maine's broadband network. They did ask for some roads that we may have at this time that we
Sure.
know is not served. So I did give them 4 roads specifically.
Excellent.
But that is because I know for sure that these are not served
Yeah.
and these need it. One was the road, this is a private road, but the residents have stated that they do want it and they are willing to cover it as long as they can hopefully get the connecting one.
Right.
So that's something that leaves for Spectrum to deal with. Then the other 3, one is Robinson Road, which is, you know, at the intersection of Augusta Road and Washington.
Yeah.
It's that one public road that just splits up. So you're not getting to that direct intersection.
Right.
That makes sense.
I think so. I'll probably go drive over down here, but I think I understand where you're going.
Yeah, sure.
Max and Ruben, just a note.
Sure.
We seem to get better reception verbally from both of you when you speak away from the microphone instead of close to it. Yeah, like that, Ruben. I can't measure Max's distance because he's facing me, but I can see Ruben from the side. You're probably 3
Okay.
feet away from the microphone.
That, I did not have that information before. Thank you, Bob.
That really helps. Thank you.
He's likely only going to pick up the mic from that laptop. You can have it come. You can move it a little closer if you want, but
I mean, if he's picking me up here,
yeah, those are going to be connected together. But the other 2 roads, one is, and I stress this is the south end of Flinders Corner. Back when North was still here, one thing you could try to do was finish the connection for Flinders, the southern portion. But what happened was LCI did the northern part, but there are 2 or 3 poles that are sort of separated from the rest of it.
right?
So there's a gap from that. And the southern ones, maybe 7 homes that are in this weird zone where Spectrum could just go up and connect those few, or LCI has to make an investment to put in those 2 new poles, and then they can finish off the rest. I think, so that was another one I said, and I kept saying, go until there's no more pole, and then that's it. We don't want to see the whole road, just that part.
Right.
And then the last one was Fintown Road. Not the entirety of it, just once, because you know how Fintown Road is, where you make your right or left turn, you go down it, and then you're in Friendship for a very brief amount of time,
Right.
and then you're back in Waldeboro. It's that second half that I said, please go take a look at that, because I think
Right.
there's a DSL out there, if I'm correct, Bob.
Yep.
Yeah. So those were the 4 that I just told them. There are likely more.
Yep.
Probably more people who are just like on the outskirts of
Yep.
the connected areas, but those were the 4 that I know for sure are mostly public roads that could be finished.
I'm thrilled with
Hopefully by this Connect Main.
I'm thrilled with any road. It's not that I don't want to start until we're 100% certain on the data we have.
Right.
Like I said, this is a perfect world statement. If anyone got even one more house connected, you will hear 0 negative things for me. That's, I don't need to own anything. So thank you so much for doing that work. So the people are thrilled too.
I only wait until those roads are served before I.
Well, I know it's not done, not trying to finish, but we're thinking of people. And that's what this is getting humans broadband. And I'm sure some pets. Richard, I am loud and fast. Is there anything thoughts you've had at this point? Any thoughts you want to go over? Anything unclear?
No, nothing unclear. I think it looks as though we're still waiting for signing to happen for Chapel Road to get wired.
So
Is
Chapel
that
Road
correct?
has been signed. That's actually done. What we're waiting for now is the actual work. And that's a relatively new thing. We went back and forth on that. But we have a new signed document. The back and forth was not everyone agreed. We had the stuff we wanted. Charter had some stuff they wanted to change. We went back and forth a couple times.
Mhm.
But there was the last signed document went certified mail, the signed for it, and we got an email back, which we'd be happy to forward to you. That shows that Charter has signed it and the work is happening. So now they're doing the poll permitting, which lets them, poll permitting probably not make right, that's the word, where they want to, commission to move wires or have the companies move their stuff so they can run their cable up that road.
Mhm.
So that's a real thing. And because that's done, that's why I think we're ready to move on and start looking for the other unserved areas. Now that our focus has come off of that, we can go back to our other, because we're not calling out one thing for our whole project. So that's, I think, why we're all looking at, let's get this next area looked at and surveyed. And if you hear something or think of something you haven't heard here, I'm focused on wireline internet, so a physical cable to a home. And this is my own personal opinion. I've never seen a cellular or a Wi-Fi that's going to do better than a cable to the house.
Right.
But once this is done, if we can get fiber close, let's say someone goes to an area that's sort of like a cul-de-sac with 3 or 4 houses that has no internet. A next question we could ask at a later phase or during construction, would a Tidewater or would a Charter be willing to take their service and run it to, a Wi-Fi 6 or a 4G or 5G that will feed a very small cluster of homes that are line of sight. If you're line of sight to an antenna, you can do really well for a fairly short distance with that technology and get speeds that you would be okay with.
Until
That's,
you can get the broadband.
yeah,
Have you gotten the feeling that people are more flexible in that way?
I think it depends on the person. I think when you have nothing, something faster than what you have now is probably acceptable. And if you're very specific, if you use the right wireless technology, you can do a lot better. I'm not going to name vendors I do or don't like, or technologies I do or don't like. This access point we have in the ceiling will do 100 megabits to my mid-grade cell phone. I think an outdoor version of that 2 or 3 houses could point on, share that speed and do fine. From 500 or 1,000 feet, there's nothing in the way. It's, if you have this thing where driveways are too long, but they can see that pole, that might be a good midterm or long midterm solution to whatever the challenge is for running media between those points. That's going to be a much smaller group of our people, but I really don't feel like this work is done until we've made a reasonable effort to get every home in town some kind of access. And it's my favorite argument is probably one a lot of people like. It's not just people talking about them, but when I think about it, they don't have their own income. They can't choose where they are. That's the stuff I'm thinking about, and that's why I'm throwing out these phase 3 ideas. How do we get even those people in? So, and that's where we would need to sit down with engineers from other ISPs and ask those questions. Last thought I have under new business in terms of reaching out to these places. Bob and I talked about this a while ago, and I guess I need to re-ask this question to Abden. I want to write a draft letter to ask a couple of questions to a couple area ISPs and their engineers. And I want to do it this way to filter it through the select board and make sure I don't ask any questions out of line. And some of it's a repeat of these questions. Hey, this is the plan we're looking at. This is how we're planning to work. Is that okay with you?
Sounds like a good idea, Ruben.
And it's not a question of confidence. I'm not going to ask for $1 million from a place. I'm just trying to make sure there's a check and a balance on everything. So everything's out in the clear. We're pretty good at that here, so it's just to maintain that.
Yep. That makes sense.
That is all the hot air I have. I would love to hear from anybody.
But just so I have it for the minute, so what you're doing is writing letters to charter and LCI or to new ISPs?
Yes, everything.
Okay.
So specifically, my steering letter, I want to write a general draft that will probably end up as a template unless I have a specific. LCI is doing things that other ISPs aren't. Of course, I'm going to acknowledge that. But in the area, we have LCI, we have a little bit of GWI, we have obviously plenty of charter. We have some consolidated communications. Consolidated has commercial fiber on my road, not for a very long length, but it's there. My neighbor could actually look up to it if they wanted. I want to reach out to all these places and say, hey, what I would like to do is get a contact that we may submit a full list of roads to and see what, if anything, you can do and are interested in doing. What services would you be interested in putting into this area as we look at writing grants and things like that. I know charters ahead on a lot of that. So we'll need to work on as a group, probably what roads we want to send out. It's also my intent for everyone on this group to see and approve those questions before they go out. I don't want to take, charter's a great example. Charter's getting a travel done for us. I'm not about to say, hey, you run real fast, you can string fiber up before charter does. I'm not looking for that. There are roads that charter's not anywhere near.
Right.
So, does Consolidated have a commercial backbone that they might make some money off if they expand their really convenient point? Things like that. And that's what that survey data is for. I don't expect you to be able to tell me what fiber is where. But if we don't see anything on a given road, we'll ask all the ISPs. If we see something that's really close to charter, maybe we ask them first. We can weight that. I'm looking for the lowest cost of entry.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and that's also what I run it by you guys to make sure that I might miss something logical. It's very easy to do when you've been staring at a problem. So just to run it by some other brains.
I think, I think you do have a good point on that. Charter's not going to be on every single road.
Yep.
They're not going to be an all solution. Like one of the roads that I could leave out on this was Store Mountain. That's because Charter's not there.
Right.
So that is something that we hope LCI we can work with to get that addressed sometime in the future. And that might just be a similar thing where we have to find a bunch of roads that are only next to LCI and get a similar grant done then with that. Or as you mentioned, the sort of wireless tactic, as I'm going to call it.
And that's fine. And that is the point with that is to ask those kinds of questions to engineers. That's
right.
Obviously no one from town's going to go, hey, get me a ladder and a staple gun, we'll fix this up. But maybe they can do that. And the other point to this whole question is if we ask LCI to water a road with 2 houses on it, they're always nice, but they're probably going to say, no, that doesn't make financial sense. If we can give any of these folks some scale, if those roads are separated but in the same town, they could probably use the same contractors to do whatever, or local staff, whatever background work has to be done. But we need to give them an ability to use that scale to make some of these things make sense.
Yep.
So that's the other reason to go for that list.
Yep. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many families do we have left to be connected roughly?
You have any idea? I don't honestly know.
We'd have to know where the broadband lines don't reach, and then we'd have to know whether, I don't know, if we make a difference whether they're year-round or seasonal as well.
I guess it would depend on who you're talking to, and I'm sure there's something in the grants. I'm treating it on paper like every home is going to have someone there that needs access to the internet. If nothing else, there might be a seasonal person that wants to sell their home. I know there's a gentleman with a very nice family that, in school that bought a house where I'm pretty sure he can see broadband lines from his house, but can't get anything. And it rings in my head a statement he made to me over a year ago where he felt like he was being punished because he bought a home. The guy made a major financial decision and then couldn't get that thing that he needed for his family. So the more people we connect, the more we reduce the chances of that happening. I want Waldeboro to be a town where you can buy a house and have ISPs have more than one kind of service near you, or at least a kind of service. Not everyone, most people don't know how to really actually verify what they can get. If you call a big conglomerate for internet, like a cable company, when you're buying a home, they'll see that there's service in your zip code and tell you, yeah, there's broadband. The FCC's current broadband maps have that same problem where if a house has broadband, they assume everyone has it. And then you get areas like this where Waldeboro has a pretty strong connectivity. You can get a lot of this town. You can get 10 gig fiber if you have the money in parts of this town. That's rare. But then we have people that have basically cans and string. There's that disparity there. Super love to fix that.
Yep.
Thank you for attending the TED Talk. All right.
Yeah, I don't have too much else for communications technologies. I know there was like a brief discussion. One thing I know John wanted to do a while ago was the downtown wireless, or at least have it somewhere on a pole at Pine Street Landing.
Okay.
That's something that, because I think I briefly talked with him about this
Yep.
a few weeks ago, I think. I asked him, this was an idea he's had for a while. Why didn't he proceed with it? It was, I guess, a matter of time, I guess. Like, it just wasn't something that was agreed upon. I don't know why.
So let's talk about that solution for a minute, because that's a really good idea. So who owns the poles in that area?
Poles, I believe, are owned by CM. I mean, this would just be going to the Pine Street one, but I believe it's CMP.
Okay. Is it all CMP, or is there something the town owns that's high up that an antenna could be mounted to?
That's what I'd have to check, because we do own the streetlights now.
Okay.
And one option that we were looking at early on with that was a node, so you could have Wi-Fi on top of it. I think that's why John wanted me to look into it again.
Yep.
I mean, I'm talking, and it's an idea that I don't know how many people would use it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something that perhaps the shell fishermen and other water-dependent aquaculturists would be interested in, or if they use it. But that's more of just another idea in the background. I think the fiber at home, or the broadband at home, is probably a more important thing. This is just something I can look into and see what that could be done, because I think Rockland has something at their harbor.
So I think in terms of the cost of that, and I'm going to preface this with, I'm taking you back in time to like 2007.
Oh boy.
I've installed systems like that. I have never done what John Lawrence did. My brain will never be that big. But I've put commercial APs on broadband to share out. So how do you get the broadband to the device that broadcasts it? What's that cost? Are you looking at just offering it, or is it a service you want to sell, or do you want to do both? You want to offer a free slow connection, a pay faster connection? What are the rules for that in the area and the state? And then are you looking at, is there LCI fiber in there that could feed that? Are you looking at repeating cellular?
I think LCI fiber does run at least High Street line.
Okay, so
I can check that.
great. So that's probably a great random question. What's already there, or what would the costs involved be? And then who's going to own and maintain that actual wireless access point? Is that something LCI would be interested in, having a Wi-Fi network that when you connect to you by LCI and has the rolling deals? Do you want it to be a town banner, like a splash page, like when you go into a coffee shop where you connect for free for a while and where you can pay? Is that a revenue thing you want to look at? The tech part is pretty easy. Find out where to bolt the thing, find out where to power the thing, find out how to jam data into it. The rest will be in the manual.
All right.
And then if you want to maintain it, we can talk about that. I'm happy to put in time looking at that with you folks. Or if it's something a local business wants to provide, then you guys can have that conversation. I'd just be upfront with all of it. And maybe if we in this group can help with that, I'm sure we'll be happy to spend time on that. It's a great idea. You caught it right where I'm most interested is those folks in those boats, those folks driving our real local core economy stuff. Yeah, if we can get that access out to them, great.
Well, and that's why I say, again, I guess I need to ask at least Abden probably, see if something that might be used. Because I'm thinking it would be a nice thing for them, but if they don't need it for any reason, then it's probably not necessary too much.
And it really depends on the equipment. I have no idea what those modules for your LED lights cost. A decent commercial Wi-Fi radio, $200. You can spend whatever you want, but they start $100-200 for an okay outdoor unit. That's just the box. That's not the stuff that plugs into it. But unless you're digging trenches and running miles of new fiber and stuff, these don't have to be hundreds or tens of thousands of dollars. Want to install it right. It's a floodlight for the internet, more or less.
Would you have to pay a subscription fee to use it?
Well, that's a great question. So that's why I ask what feeds the internet into that box. So, your Wi-Fi at home, you're paying Charter, LCI, or whoever to bring internet into your house. You've bought that appliance. You own that appliance with that Wi-Fi radio that sends the signal out. So let's assume a scenario where the town owns and provides this. The town would need to pay for or arrange for internet to get to the device, whoever that's through. The town would buy the commercial piece of hardware that gets bolted up wherever, but you just own that hardware. You don't have to lease it. I'm sure there's a service that would. And really it depends on how big you want to go. Are you talking one antenna that hits a narrow area? Or are you trying to, in Camden, we did one that was a whole marina, and that was a whole different thing. There was fiber and there's power and all that, but that was, that's a place where you see 3-story yachts come in regularly so they can get painted and stuff. And here, I feel like we've got more of the working man kind of thing going on. I'd be happy at some point to meet someone there. Somebody I just like to meet them goes, yeah, maybe we can get an idea for scale. Because my concept is talking about this one antenna, like in this room we have one up there. I don't know how big this would really need to be and how complex that network would need to get. For wireless, you can usually have internet into a device, and then you can repeat it a couple of times at most. You can't go more than 3. You probably shouldn't repeat it more than once before you have a wire to the next thing.
I think it was only going to be just one, like just on the one pole. That was it.
So that's a lot easier. It even gives you a little opportunity for relatively inexpensive expansion because you can repeat it once and probably be fine. But I don't think, as you can find time to have those conversations, I don't think that would need to slow down for what we're doing here. If you're talking a whole marina and a whole big project, yeah, that's a big thing. But if you're talking about just adding one AP, which is access point or router, I always call it AP because I have IT habits. That could be a pretty short conversation other than the waiting for people to say yes or no. Is that making amount of sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know I get real excited, so I like to make sure.
Well, I mean, if no one here minds, I can take a look at it and just give whatever I find here, or just reports here.
I think that makes sense. The only thing I'd ever ask on stuff like that, and no one here has done this, don't make a promise early, never promise a timetable. Other than that, if you have an idea, yeah, work on your idea.
I agree on all those points.
Yeah.
As long as people are clear that we're just researching stuff, what do they call those? Shower thoughts. Sometimes you have an idea in the shower. Yeah, hammer on that thing. If you think of something, try it out. If you're having trouble filling in the blanks, that's why we meet as a group, so we can put that together.
So what you're saying is I'm not promising people town-wide wireless Wi-Fi from this one pole. I'm not to make that.
You say that, but man, I got some relatives who are pretty sure Wi-Fi just goes forever. So you never know.
Just making sure.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page.
Are you going to go into the new business mention here, or is that?
So I think that was kind of what we were going over. That sort of bled into that. The new business I had for me, was really describing that shared drive and the help I'm asking for and looking at that map and driving those roads. Now, I do owe you guys some homework, which is getting that map onto that Google Drive, making sure I can log into it, which if I can't, don't worry, I can reset the password. And then making sure everyone here can sign into that. And then from there, I'm looking for feedback. What can you do? What can you not do? What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? I guess the only other new business thing I have, and I should have made a sign, I should have thought of it, is Help Wanted. I love talking to you guys. I would also love to talk to some people we haven't talked to before. A person, a couple people, whatever. I'm looking for people that think differently from me or anyone else here. That way we don't miss an angle. I think we're pretty good here. None of us feel like we have to own this or that we are king of the internet hill. We're just trying to get more broadband out. I'd like to get that expanded out. I know we've got some folks in town. I hear a lot of talk about younger. I could care less how old somebody is. I'm into meeting new people, and whatever age and experience that comes with is fine. I'd just like to add to what we got going on here. Get some more diversity going on. Yeah.
And just to reinforce what you said, Ruben, we're always looking for new members to be on the committee. So,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah. Yep.
It's you go to one, you can't help it. You start going to another one, you know. Not whole, but it's a good time.
Yep.
All right. Well, if no one has anything else,
I'm not seeing any comments in the YouTube channel.
all right, well, I guess we'll wait for the email. Oh, email. Max and I had a brief discussion. I don't know if it was reply all or just you and me. It was just you. Okay, so I'd like to have an official place that is not in my control where questions from anyone can go to, and I'd like that to be public. So if someone has an internet question, it can get sent in and documented, and that, you know, we can read those questions in weeks or feedback or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember what we had decided on for that, whether that was a new address or was it your email address? And your email address is
planning@waldoboromaine.org.
planning@waldoboromaine.org. Okay. When I type Max, my phone fills it in for me.
There.
So yeah, I guess, you know, let it be known. That's if you have a comment, a question, a concern, or a poem, I would pick a poem, you know, send it there so we can review it. And so the town owns that, so it'll get through and there will be clear communication on both sides.
I have neighbors, for example, who've been very eager to get this going for themselves on Route 220. And so this would be a good thing to send an email to you, and they could say, we're so-and-so, and we would like to see this, and this isn't a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could have that discussed at a meeting, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll also help us build a more granular map.
Yeah.
Go back to an earlier comment, part of the problem with the current way broadband is surveyed at a national level is if Max can get internet, they assume everyone around Max can get internet. So if we have someone say, hey, we still can't get internet, we can just go back and know this road for sure. We would drive to that address and it wouldn't be hard just to extrapolate what else is in that space. And maybe it'll give people an outlet. It's not a lot, but you know, there's emotional frustration that goes with this too. And even if it's just to let these folks vent, but we keep trying to work for them, I'm okay with that. Mostly because it's not my email.
Yeah, that I figured.
I'm just realizing now what I've opened Max up to. I'm sorry, Max.
I better get some lovely poems.
Oh, I have no doubt. If Julie sees this, you'll get at least one.
Did you get any questions, Max?
Nope, I'd not receive any, at least up for tonight.
Okay.
I think our biggest viewers not having regular broadband is probably part of that.
Probably.
Most of the people that could attend this are well equipped, which thank you, by the way, to the whole town for doing the streaming thing. I've enjoyed being able to see a lot from home while I do other stuff.
Yeah, I'm hoping to fix this.
You've been one of the few who participates in those meetings, Ruben, and that's appreciated.
Well, we got to get more people on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Julie loves getting your comments during the select board meetings.
It's becoming a sport. I'm not going to lie.
Stay with it.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, with your permission, I'm going to leave. I have another commitment this evening, but I want to thank you both and Max for putting this together and moving it along. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Yes, with that, we will adjourn unless you want to go over. No? Cool. I'm just glad to have a meeting, to be honest.
So we're adjourned?